It's time for Remodel Revolution. And now, an award-winning contractor with over 40 years experience. Here is Alex.
Welcome to another episode of Remodel Revolution. I'm your host, Alex Guthrie, and I have with me today, coming from the world headquarters of Remodel Revolution, my co-host, Miss Poonam Patel, from deep in the heart of the great state of Texas. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning, Alex. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm doing really well. It's going to be a really interesting show. We're going to talk. You basically have me and Poonam, and then we found this guy. You know, I was coming in. I saw this guy kind of laying up by the front door, begging for food and money, and I said, come on in and be part of the show. So it ends up that his name is Donny Mack, and we decided to put Donny on camera. Good morning, Donny Mack. How are you, buddy?
How you doing, Alex? I'm glad you took in mercy for me.
Yeah, well, you know, you needed a little mercy today. What can I say? How are you, buddy?
Unbelievable. Thank you for asking.
That's excellent. That's excellent. The reason I asked Donny to come on is one of our first segment today, I wanted to talk about, because of some things I've been seeing lately, is your builder a tradesman or is your builder a salesman? And this comes up because more and more builders are not trained in the trades. They didn't come up like Donny and I did with a broom in one hand and a hammer in the other hand. And so there's a different perspective with a lot of builders as far as how to manage projects and how to look for problems with projects, or manage the trades, manage the tradesmen, and honestly, it's just sort of how you look for an issue. It's sort of like you have a car mechanic, and is he a car mechanic that has busted down an engine and rebuilt it so he understands everything about how that engine works? Or is he just a salesman that became a car mechanic, and every time he's got to do something to the car, he has to look the instructions up? And that's sort of sometimes, not always, but sometimes that's the difference between a tradesman builder and a salesman builder. So Poonam, you've had experience in this.
I have.
And what is your opinion?
I mean, the more competent the contractor is to manage their subcontractors, at the end of the day, that's going to be a successful project for the client. I have encountered projects where sometimes the client brings the contractor, so I don't have much say-so in who's being selected. And I've worked with some contractors who don't know how to read a floor plan. I've worked with contractors who rely a lot on the subcontractors from the very beginning. I remember this one contractor, the way that he provided estimates was to just invite all of his subs into the house. That's a lot of people in the house, and do their own estimates and quotes, and then he would just kind of collect them and provide a final number. And in doing that, there's no checks and balances in the sense that if something's left out, how's the contractor, the person who's responsible, going to be able to account for that and say, oh, well, hey, this is missing, this was not included in the bid. And I get it, that's sometimes, contingencies are there for things like that happens with a contractor or someone who's more of a salesperson. But, I definitely get a little bit worried when I learn that I'm working with more of a salesperson than an actual contractor, because, they need to know what they're doing, especially if they're going to get paid that way.
So the reason this came up, Donny, with me this week is because I looked at a house this week, and it's the second time I've looked at it, that was remodeled about 5 or 6 years ago. And it was a catastrophe at the time because the person that was in charge of the remodel, the site superintendent, was just totally inexperienced. And people were getting away with all kinds of stuff because he just didn't know what to look for. The actual company that he worked for is a highly respected company in Dallas. And so everybody just assumed everything was going to be done right. But at the end of the day, when the inspectors came in and started inspecting the house, there was a myriad of problems, serious issues that the person just didn't know when he looked at it. And then I talked to another friend of mine that's doing the same thing. He's actually doing a reconstruction on a new home that was built that has such bad problems. They're actually having to remove all the flooring. They're having to remove and repair a bunch of sheetrock and all these things that are happening. And I said, well, what happened? I asked him what happened. And he said, well, the guy that was in charge of building the house wasn't a builder. He just relied totally on his subs and their judgment. Now, to your comment about bringing the subs in, I do that as well. But I know as much as they know. So you bring your subs in, you bring people in to look at it because you have to do that on a remodel. But then there's a judgment factor on my part where I've got to ask them the right questions. Yeah. And usually I know as much or more about their trade than they do because I've been doing it all my life. Donnie, how's your system work?
We use the old theory about trust but verify. We start out with a clear scope of work, and then we use the trades to go look at it to give us a clear bid. And then I use my experience to verify the bid was for the full scope of work.
Right.
We have taken over a couple of projects that the builder got in a bind with, but we use a third-party inspector. They're a new set of eyes. They're looking for code compliance. They're making sure things are done as per the code requires. And just for completeness, there's a lot of aspects to a home that a lot of people don't think about. Thickness of the foam, water infiltration, which would be the house wrap and such as that. There's a lot of things that need to be paid attention to that a lot of builders tend to overlook.
And it's a lot of times it's site supervision. So a lot of times, now historically, a builder wants to hire a person that knows nothing except how to call him. So it's like, I'm going to pay you minimum wage, or I'll pay you $10 an hour. You go sit out there and call me when the sheetrocker's finished. So I'll tell you who to call next. That's for years how a lot of these builders, they just hired it was a gopher basically. The houses that we're building now are very sophisticated. Even if you go by the bare minimum code compliance, the energy efficiency of the house is complicated. The materials are expensive. The labor's expensive. It's a complex thing. And you've got to have somebody out there that knows what they're doing. But I have to tell you, Donnie, I'm going out, I'm looking at $1 million homes to put elevators in them that are brand new, and they're garbage. I can't believe what people are getting away with.
Again, a lot of the builders in my industry may count on like a municipal inspector to look at things. That's why it's so important to use someone like a Burgess construction consultant, so somebody that really looks at the fine tune, the stud to stud, the wall cavities, the details within that scope of work to make sure it is off per code.
Yeah.
If you're only looking for health and safety, sometimes you overlook some of the more important things.
Well, and Poonam, part of your job as a design consultant, if you're acting on behalf, when you're acting on behalf of the homeowner, you do a real enhanced design consulting, and you blend some of your management is to help them along these lines as well, where you go in and you go, okay, this is what I intended to have done. This is what I want done.
Absolutely. My job is to make sure that the design intent that the client and I have set down and decided and approved gets executed in such a way where there's very little difference between what ends up getting built and the client's expectations. And so it's called, the service is called, it's kind of like project management. We call it construction administration. So I'm out there on the site once every 2 weeks, sometimes once a week, depending on the project and the needs and what's agreed upon, and work with the contractor very closely to make sure that there's very little gap between the understanding of what's happening. Most of the time, the drawings it doesn't matter who does the drawings. It could be the best firm in the world or the best designer in the world, and there's always going to be some sort of gap in understanding of what's drawn and what the understanding is of the contractor.
It's an interpretation. And part of what you have to do, and Donny, you experience this because you build custom homes, part of what you have to do is sort of take that interpretation part out of it.
Yes, yes. And I mean, drawings, think about it. I mean, you have a huge building and you're trying to squeeze all the information onto a small piece of paper. And so at some point, you can't draw every nut, screw, bolt. So things that are under a certain size sometimes don't show up on the drawings. And so somebody needs to be there to articulate what that looks like. For example, like a 1/8 inch bevel on the edge of a concrete.
Right.
So, I mean, you can do it, but then it's easier to just be there and communicate it.
Donny, what's your advice to a homeowner that may be having issues and they're concerned that possibly their builder isn't paying enough attention to their project?
Homeowners can always hire a third-party inspector themselves. Make sure that they are certified and that they have some kind of critique with them. Mm-hmm. But have them look it over, and then just stick with the code requirements and make sure that's being done as per code, because a lot of those codes are in place for a reason, and it's very important that the builder follows those codes.
And I think, but what I see happening a lot, I've seen over the years a lot, and I'm seeing more and more now. Our generation of builders is going away, and the new generation of builders, a lot of them did not come up from the broom to the office, the broom to the keyboard, and so there's this kind of lack of experience where what happens is if you don't know to look for it, you don't see it. And I think that what I see happening is the homeowners try to step in and become that person, and they don't know either. And it just causes all these problems. And I think you're 100% on target that the solution is the third-party inspector. If you've got a third-party inspector, that is sort of, whether they're advocating or not, they end up being sort of an advocate for the homeowner or the client. Okay. Well, Donny, we really, really appreciate you being here today. And I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Bye, Donny.
Have a good day.
We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Poonam and I, we're going to start a discussion about some construction decisions and things like that people have to make, and we're going to give some advice on how to get through a project working with the builder. So we'll be right back in about 60 seconds.
The hardest working and arguably most important system in our homes is our air conditioning and heating system. It heats the air, it cools the air, and it filters the air. That's why it's so critical to have it checked and maintained by the very best professionals available. It's time to contact Total Air and Heat at totalair.com. Get that system pruned and tuned. If you want to have the very best experience, you've got to hire the very best company. Total Air's employees are honest, well-trained, and thoroughly background checked. I never have to worry about sending their technicians out to my clients' homes. Family owned and operated for 3 generations, Total Air and Heat has been a fixture in North Dallas for over 60 years. Total Air is a proud dealer of the Trane air conditioning systems, and you know how hard it is to stop a Trane, so give them a call at 972-881-0020. That's 972-881-0020, or contact them at totalair.com today.
Are you thinking about doing a remodel, well, you need to check out Poonam Patel Urban Loop Studio is having a webinar.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that for a minute because I am going to make an offer to, she doesn't know this, Poonam does not know this, but I have two $25 Home Depot gift cards. And if you make a reservation to be on Poonam's webinar, and you use the promo code RRV, Remodel Revolution Vodcast, RRV, you will get the first two that do that will get a $25 Home Depot gift card
Whoop, whoop.
that Poonam will mail to you. So you're doing a webinar. Tell us about it. Tell us about it.
So this Saturday, 11 a.m., grab your favorite cup of coffee, and we're going to talk about everything you need to do to kickstart a successful remodel. We're going to talk about how to come up with what your dream home could look like, a map of how to complete a renovation or remodel successfully. I'll show you my lifestyle analysis tool that'll help you get through all the decisions and the confusion that one usually has to go through in order to come up with the final floor plan. And some people don't know what they want. And so I invite you to the Discover Year 2.0. We'll work with you to create a vision board for each room and basically discover how you can get a home run renovation on the first shot as close as possible. So it'll be this Saturday. You can register on my Facebook page or Eventbrite. It's, again, this Saturday, 11 a.m., and it will be running on a monthly basis.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
you already have a whole bunch of people signed up.
Oh, yes.
Man, that's
Yes,
incredible.
yes.
That's because you're awesome. You're awesome. Don't miss this opportunity. Poonam is a amazingly talented designer. And and I know if you're following this show, and so many hundreds of thousands are, kidding, we need more. I know that you love her as much as I do. So get on that webinar. You don't have anything else to do. You can listen to the webinar and eat your pancakes all at the same time.
You can just come say hi and have a cup of coffee, and we can hang out. You don't have to be there there's no obligation.
So
Just have fun.
let's talk about some construction stuff.
Let's do
And
it.
we were going to talk about making decisions prior to construction. And you're a real stickler about this. This is real important to you. And because the first thing we find out when we start doing a remodel in particular, and the same can hold true with a new home, but more so a remodel, is that you run into this constant changing landscape when you start tearing a house apart. And you have to make decisions, as many decisions as you can going in, for a myriad of reasons. It's not just how you want it to look, but it's like picking materials and saying, and so it isn't, well, I like this. And you go, Poonam says, Greg, glad you like it. It's going to take 6 months to get. Sorry. And so it's things like that. There's these little things that we don't all think about because we have all this information that's available to us on the internet to help us make decisions about what we want to see or how it's going to look when it's finished. We don't really have an understanding of a lot of the nuances involved with making those selections.
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many decisions that need to be made from a spatial perspective, what materials you're going to use, and even how you want to be living your lifestyle in this new home. I have a lifestyle analysis tool that asks over 100 questions to help you really zero in on how you want to be utilizing the space, which then becomes a template of your floor plan. And, some projects can have up to 500 material selections, if not more, depending on the size and scope of the project. And even then, you have to make sure, okay, do I like it? Does it fit? Does it work in the space? Work in the space meaning, you can't it's, for example, in showers and kitchens, you want to use materials that are specified wet rated so that they don't, get soggy or, deteriorate after a long time. You have to think about, does this material fit in your budget? So there's a lot of decisions that need to be made. And a lot of times clients will come to Alex or I and say things like, hey, I want to renovate my house. I want my dream house. Okay, so we're here and you want us to be here. So how do you fill in the gap, right? So a lot of clients try to just stumble and make these decisions as the renovation is progressing and don't realize that a lot of costly mistakes happen. So what I want to recommend is to make all these decisions up front, and that way the contractor and the subs have a clear understanding of what to execute. So all you really have to do is just hit the play button and the orchestra starts.
And you can see, if you're watching this video, that Poonam is wearing brass knuckles. And the reason she's wearing those brass knuckles is that if I don't agree with her that she's made the right, bam, boy, I'll tell you, show them your brass knuckles.
What did you say?
You said what? It's sort of like if you go up to someone and you say, I want a made from scratch chocolate cake for my birthday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've got to, but I'm not going to give you the recipe.
Yeah, exactly. I need to know what flavor you like.
Right.
Do you like sprinkles?
And Poonam, you have to make that cake from scratch, and I'm not giving you the recipe, but I expect that cake to be like, perfect. This is what we're talking about in a remodel. So you're telling us you want to accomplish X, and we're starting at A.
Exactly. And that's such a great analogy, and I'd like to add on to it, think about when you go buy a car. You need to know at minimum if you want a motorcycle, a sedan, minivan, SUV, and from there you select the exterior material, paint color. Then you have to select the interiors, do you want white, tan, black,
Right,
fabric,
right.
leather. So the concepts are similar. And then of course there's always bells and whistles. Do you want, what do you call it? The heated steering wheels or the heated seats. So
Dude, you've got like high class taste. Hey, we're gonna take a quick break. And when we come back, we're gonna continue on this subject in a little different aspect. We're gonna talk about contractor communication, and it all ties in at the end of the day. We're going to talk about communicating with your contractor. We'll be right back in 60 seconds.
Imagine this, a totally customized, organized, and beautiful master closet. A home office that fits right into a perfect space. A pantry designed specifically for your storage needs. Imagine your home totally organized. It's time to call the design professionals at Closets by Design DFW and turn your dreams into a reality. With a design staff over 30 strong, Closets by Design works directly with you to create your dream space, and they build it locally, helping support the DFW community. Check them out at dallas.closetsbydesign.com or call them at 972-361-0010. Use the promo code RRV to find out about the amazing specials and discounts available. That's dallas.closetsbydesign.com or call them at 972-361-0010, and don't forget that promo code RRV. Closets by Design.
The most important thing when you're doing a building, having a new house built or a house remodeled, is you have to be able to communicate with the people in charge. And often I run into this problem where I'm being asked to look at a project that maybe went awry. Maybe things didn't happen right. There's been a problem. They want me to come in. And this is becoming more and more common in my business. And part of it is that I just have longevity, and people go, okay, he's been around forever. He's going to understand what our problems are. And generally they're right. What I find is that a big problem in this business is communication between the design team and the homeowner, or maybe just I've been on a couple of them where it's just a total breakdown all the way around. So today we have focused so far on third-party inspections and kind of the owner being able to have someone come in and kind of check on what the contractor's been up to protect your investment. And we've also talked about communicating with your design team from A to Z. So the design team is on Z, and you at the start of the project are on A, and you've got to fill all that in to have a successful outcome with your project. So now Poonam and I want to talk about with you communicating, particularly with your contractor. And, you know, things have changed a lot. Now, since the recession of 2011, a lot of us, and me included, took our companies we had spent 20 years building, and we had staffs and offices and all kinds of superintendents, and we were rocking and rolling doing these big projects, and we went, ooh, 2011 hit, or 10, or whatever it was, 8, I guess it was 8. It seemed like it lasted forever. And a lot of us had to just sort of pare down our expectations and kind of get back to basics, and that's what I did. So if you hire me, I actually supervise all my projects. I don't trust that to anybody anymore. It means I have to take less projects, but my projects go a lot better because I am in touch with the budget, the scheduling. I am the person you call if there's a problem. And believe me, I get calls, normally from the subs. But communication has changed a lot with the internet and with technology. When I was coming up in this business, we used these things called telephones. And we had these other really bizarre little boxes next to them called answering machines. And you would leave a message on the answering machine. That's this little box that talks to you. And I would call you the next day. Or I had a pager. This was another little box that was on my belt, and it would vibrate and tell me if you called. All it had was a phone number. I didn't know who it was, just had a phone number. And I might call you the next day, or I might not. But nowadays, we have a computer in our hand. And so you can call me, you can video me, we can do a video chat. You can be in the store buying selecting tile. This happens to me all the time. And you're going to call me and go, hey, I'm thinking about this. And blah, blah, blah. This is what I'm thinking. How do you think it'll look or whatever? Is this how you're communicating with your clients?
Yeah, I use FaceTime a lot with my contractors, especially if it's something that, they'll just, for example, show me what they're working on and ask me details. Do you want the Schluter here? Do you want the Schluter like that? How do you want the tile oriented? And so these are very quick ways to communicate effectively. We also use, for iPhone users, you can also take a photo and use the markup tool. I love using that one.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and that way, they get an answer more in a, just instantaneously, as opposed to me commuting, driving over there for 30 minutes and then, doing that conversation there.
Yeah, right.
And then they have amazing apps too, like Co-Construct and Project Mates, Builder Trend, and that allows you to kind of broadcast to the entire team. It's a project management app that streamlines the whole process. Everybody, and if you forget to send out a text message or communicate something, the other person on the team can always log in and check the status of it without having to waste any of your time.
And remind you. And then one of the cool thing that's happened, and this is over the course of the last really 15 years, is all of the available websites like House. House comes to mind because it's so big. And I was on House when it first came out. It was a little bitty thing. And now, of course, it owns the world in construction. But you can have your clients go on, and they've got 3 or 4 million pictures. I think over